All right. Good morning. Well, good afternoon, good evening, wherever time it is for you. We've got some in all time zones, I think, right now. We are going to have a kind of an interesting talk today. We're talking about sexual, what did I call it? I called it sexual, here it is. Oh, come on. Now why is it doing this? My Telegram is acting up right now. I hope that it's going to do this recording correctly. Sexual prohibitions is what I called it. I think you're going to find this interesting. You know, there's things that we say may be prohibitions that I think are doctrines and traditions of men. Let's go through some of these things and find out what Yehovah has to say about it. First, it says, then Yehovah spoke to Moses, saying, speak to Israel's seed. We've talked about who Israel's seed is. We've called them the Ezra-Aretz, the land's seed. Remember when when Moses talked to Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, it was all about the land and the seed, the land and the seed, the land and the seed. It's interesting that it is Ezra Haaretz. Literally, it's the land's seed, not the seed's land. Ooh, isn't that interesting? We're going to see more of that today. I've never saw that before, and I think that is something interesting. So we're talking to Israel's seed. Remember, we see the children of Israel. Oh my goodness, we've got to get past this. Look at how this finishes. It starts with, speak to Israel's seed and say to them, I am Yehovah, your Elohim. Here's what it actually says. Ane Yehovah Elohim. Elohim. I am Yehovah, your Elohim. Not the Elohim of the people in the land of Egypt, land of Canaan, as we're going to see in the very next verse. Let me continue reading, since we are kind of there right now. According to the doings of the land of Egypt, where you dwelt, where you used to dwell, you shall not do. And according to the doings of the land of Canaan, where I am bringing you, you shall not do, nor shall you walk in their ordinances. First commandment, I am Yehovah, who brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Thou shalt have no other Elohim existing before my face. A man can only serve one master. Either he serves Yehovah or he serves the Elohim of the land. He's telling us not to do according to the Elohim of the land of Egypt, where you dwelt. He says, nor shall you walk in their ordinances. You know, I've worked hard over the last 25 years not to walk according to their ordinances. I've worked hard not to have covenants with the Elohim of the land because I want to serve only Yahovah. Look what he says. You shall observe my judgments and keep my ordinances to walk in them. I am Yahovah, your Yah's Elohim. He says it again. You shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, which if the man, they put, which a man does over here on the left, verse 5, a man does. No, it says, which if the man does, he shall live by them. I am Yahovah. Ani Yahovah. I am Yahovah. He says it many, many times in this chapter and in the next chapter as well. I haven't looked at chapter 20 yet, but I did review chapter 19 in preparation for next week. Yahovah instructing Israel's seed. But we will see that these statutes apply to the ger who dwells with the seed as well. Look at this last verse. No, it's not the last verse, but it's one of the last verses that we're going to come to. Verse 26. He says, you shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, and you shall not commit any of these abominations. We're going to talk about all these abominations today. You shall not commit any of these abominations, those who are the Ezra. Look at that. What was he just talking about? The children of Israel, Israel's seed, B'nai Israel. Now he's making it extra clear, and he's telling us the Ezra and the ger who dwell among them. Oh, folks, I've just got to have you understand that when we're talking about Israel's seed, we're not talking about children of Israel. We're talking about spiritually born men. Men who have left the kingdom of their birth. They're not according to the land of Egypt. Not according to the land of Canaan where he's bringing us. We follow only Yahovah. We've been circumcised and we've kept the Passover. That's what made us Ezra men. We were ger before we were Ezra men. He says, you were ger in the land of Egypt. You didn't get to leave until you became Ezra men. His firstborn. That's when we got to leave Egypt. Oh, you've got to see this. You've just got to understand this. Well, I've got other verses. Let's talk about verse 3 now. We've already read it. For Yahovah, your Elohim, will bless you. Nope, that's not it right there. According to the doings of the land of Egypt, I'm reading on the left, where you dwelt, you shall not do. And according to the doings of the land of Canaan, where I am bringing you, you shall not do, nor shall you walk in their ordinances. Well, I want you to consider some of these other verses that I pulled up for your consideration. Here's Deuteronomy 15. For Yahovah, your Elohim, will bless you just as he promised you. You shall lend to many nations, but you shall not borrow. You shall reign over many nations, but they shall not reign over you. The nations are not to reign over his Ezra men. Here's Leviticus 20. Next week's verse, or a couple weeks ahead. And you shall not walk in the statutes of the nations, which I am casting out before you. For they commit all these things, and therefore I abhor them. But I have said to you, you shall inherit their land, and I will give it to you give it to you to possess, a land flowing with milk and honey. I am Yahovah, your Elohim. There it is again. Ane Yahovah Elohim. Elohim. Your Elohim, your all's Elohim, who has separated you from the peoples. We are a separate nation, a holy nation. We're going to see that second verse next week. Here is Haman talking to King Ahasuerus in Ezra, or in Esther 3:8. Listen to what he says. This is so fascinating. Then Haman said to King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from all other peoples. They do not keep the king's laws. Therefore, it is not fitting for the king to let them remain. These people were living separately from the world. Isn't that interesting? That's what we're supposed to learn to do. It's going to be much easier in the future. Up till now, we have been slaves, and by virtue of our Social Security number and many of our other numbers, they bound us to serve them. And that's not going to be the case in the future. We, the people, can serve who we want to serve very soon. Verse 4, you shall observe my statutes and keep my ordinances and walk in them. I am Yahovah, your Elohim. Ani Yahovah Elohim. Again, Ya'al's Elohim. That's who he says he is. He's our Elohim. Israel's Elohim. The Ezra men's Elohim. Verse 5. You shall therefore keep my statutes. I think this is so interesting. My statutes, again, my statutes, my statutes. She says, you shall not walk in their ordinances. You shall observe my statutes, my judgments, and my ordinances. Now he's saying, you shall therefore keep my statutes and my judgments, which if it says a man, no, it's the man. Which the man does, he shall live by them. You know, most people would read this amen and think that a woman is a man. Wouldn't they? And they do it all the time. That's why it says the children of Israel. They think they're the Israel seed. They're not. They're not. Yahovah speaks to men. Yahovah rules over his sons, Israel. What does it say? As a man takes a virgin, as a young man takes a virgin, so Yahovah takes his son, marries, it actually says marries his son. So Yahovah marries his son. As a man rejoices over his woman, so Yahovah rejoices over you. It's talking about Israel's seed. This is the man. The man, the man, the man. Again, Ani Yahovah. Verse 5. I am Yahovah, the Lord. I want to put the Lord in all the time. Well, this goes with the next verse. For Elohim will bring every work. Oh, no, I'm sorry. The next verse is the next verse in. I pulled this from Ecclesiastes because of it's saying the man. This is which if the man does, he shall live by them. The man. Now look what it says in Ecclesiastes. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Elohim. No, fear the Elohim, it says. The Elohim. And keep his commandments. For this is the man's all. That's what it says. The man's all. For the Elohim, again, the Elohim, not just God, the Elohim, the lawmaker and judge, will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or evil. Now that's the introduction. We live differently than the people of the land. We'll see it again next week. But today we're talking about something in particular. He's now going to change gears. He says, none of you. Oh my goodness. Again, something is being hidden from us. He's not talking to ladies. He's talking to men. Look what it actually says. Ish, ish. They translate it as none of you. They could say no man. That would be a little more clear. Whatever man. That's what they did in a couple chapters ago. But no, they say none of you shall approach anyone who is near of kin. Is he talking to ladies? No. Ish, ish. He's talking to men. No man is a better translation. Man shall approach anyone who is, shall approach. Would have to be man shall not approach anyone who is near of kin to uncover nakedness. Look what they put. To uncover his nakedness. It's not his. To uncover nakedness. I am Yehovah. We're talking about approaching anyone near of kin to uncover nakedness. Who's the near of kin? The very next verse tells us. The nakedness of your father or the nakedness of your mother. You shall not uncover. She is your mother. You shall not uncover her nakedness. The nakedness of your father and the nakedness of your mother are not necessarily the same thing. Because you can have a mother who is not your father's woman at the time. I know you got to kind of read through this to understand what exactly we're talking about. But she has her own nakedness that is separate from your father. The nakedness of, here, I'm going to read it on the right here. No man shall approach anyone who is near of kin. Oh, I guess I'm in there. I got to go to the next verse. The nakedness of thy father and the nakedness of thy mother thou shalt not uncover. She is thy mother. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Now, I know that doesn't necessarily fit with what I was just saying, but we're going to see how it does if you continue to follow along. Let me go back up here to verse 6. And this is not necessary. Here's the prohibitions. 6 through 30 is the prohibited sexual partners for Jehovah's son Israel, or Israel's seed. Really, even for the ger who dwells with them, this would be included in that. So the first one we're talking about is the nakedness, anyone who's near of kin, the nakedness of your father, the nakedness of thy father's or thy mother's nakedness, or thy mother's. You know, I wondered if this was, if it didn't have the and, the vav in there, but the vav is there. So it doesn't say thy father and thy mother's nakedness. It says thy father's or thy mother's nakedness. I thought, really what I thought it would be was thy father's, comma, thy mother's nakedness. In other words, they were the same. Thy mother's nakedness is thy father's nakedness. But it looks like there's two different things going on here. And we're going to see how this fits together, because thy father has a nakedness and thy mother also has nakedness that we're not to be near of kin with. And no, it's hard. I've gone over this many years, and even today came up with more tweaks to understand this better. Now look what he's going to say. First, they had thy father or thy mother's nakedness, and they finished by saying, she is thy mother. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. I would have thought it would have said his nakedness, but that's not what it says. She has her own nakedness also, separate from his. Verse 8. We're going to talk about your father's woman. The nakedness of thy father's woman, thou shalt not uncover. It is thy father's nakedness. Do you hear that? So in the first one, we had thy father or thy mother's nakedness. She is thy mother. Now we have thy father's woman. Remember, it doesn't say wife. There is no word for wife in Torah. The nakedness of thy father's woman, thou shalt not uncover. It is thy father's nakedness. This woman is not our mother. This woman is our father's woman, and as such, she is his nakedness. Where was it? 8. She is thy father's nakedness. Verse 9. The nakedness of thy sister, the daughter of thy father, or the daughter of thy mother. Do you hear? We're talking, it's kind of like this verse here, none of you shall cover shall approach anyone who is near of kin. This is the big picture in what's going on here. Really, this picture, this one, and the next verse are the big picture for what's underneath it. All the ones underneath it are related to what he's talking about being near of kin, the nakedness of thy father or the nakedness of thy mother. In the first one, thy mother, he's talking about She is your mother. But now we're talking about your father's woman. You shall not uncover. You shall not uncover. Keep in mind, when we're talking about nakedness, I had a note about this. Where is it? I think I'm going too fast and I'm missing some of my notes. Oh, gosh, I have so many different notes on here. Do I want to go through this? No, I don't want to go through that right now. 7. Here it is. Uncovering his father's nakedness, mother's nakedness would be the same thing. It's a euphemism. A nice way of saying something that is bad. The man passes away instead of the man died. It's a euphemism. Uncovering his father's nakedness, instead of saying he had intercourse with his father's woman, is a nicer way of saying it. But we have to take this a little further. We have to take this further because it's not necessarily just about uncovering a father's nakedness. You know, that's what I thought it was all about. If you're sleeping with your mother, you're sleeping with your father's nakedness. She's your father's nakedness. But she has a nakedness that is separate from your father. Let me try. As we go through this, I think it's going to make sense to you. The nakedness of thy father, or the nakedness, we did that one. We got it here. The nakedness of your sister. Look, the daughter of your father, or the daughter of your mother. Really, it says thy. The nakedness of thy sister, the daughter of thy father, or the daughter of thy mother. You could have a sister who is your mother's daughter, but not your father's daughter. Do you see that? She would be kind of a stepsister, wouldn't she? In fact, did I put that down? Yeah, I did. Verse 9.
That's a half-sister.
A half-sister? Wouldn't that be a stepsister?
No, I think that's a half-sister. If you got half of your parents as one of their parents.
Oh, really? All right. I may have to check that.
I have a half-sister, so that's how I know.
Oh, okay.
A step is when you marry somebody with kids, then that's your step, but they're not by blood. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
no, I don't think that's what we're talking about here. Because listen to what it says now. And I appreciate your comment very much, V, very much. The nakedness of thy sister, the daughter of thy father, or the daughter of thy mother. So the daughter of thy mother, in a sense, is not the daughter of thy father. She is the daughter of a woman who came in. Now, is that a half-sister? Is that what you're saying? V?
I'm not sure. I'm kind of...
You know, I have a thought there. I think maybe the daughter of the father is actually the woman, the other woman. She's your half sister, but the daughter of your mother can only be your direct sister because your father is also, and your mother are your parents. I think it goes the other way.
Well,
I think that.
but here, this actually gives us a little more clarification. She is, in a sense, your mother, though it sounds like she wasn't your mother. She may have been somebody else's mother. Or maybe she's your mother, the daughter of your father, or the daughter of your mother. Yeah, I think we're talking about a sister or a stepsister. I called her a stepsister, but V may be correct that it's actually called a half-sister. Because look what it says, whether born at home or elsewhere, their nakedness you shall not uncover. This second woman does not have the same mother and father. This is a daughter who came in with the mother, perhaps before she had you, the person that he's talking with, Israel's seed. You follow what I'm saying? If a man takes his sister, his father's daughter, or his mother's daughter, father's daughter, or his mother's daughter. Apparently, the mother's daughter does not share the father. So that would be, maybe that is a half-sister. Maybe that's what she would be. Your half-sister, V, is she the daughter of another woman?
Yes.
Another man?
We have the same dad, but different mothers. So she's my half-sister.
Oh, she have the same dad,
Yes.
but different mothers.
Correct. That makes you a half. And it could go the other way. If you had a sister that had the same mother but different fathers, that's also a half.
That's a half-sister. So
But
maybe what I'm calling a stepsister is, in fact, a half-sister.
No, a stepsister is if my dad married somebody that had a daughter, she's my stepsister.
See, now that's what I think we're talking about.
Could be, but there's no blood relation, but she's still a stepsister.
There's a blood relation because the mother, we want to call the blood relationship the father's nakedness, but this is talking about the father's nakedness or the mother's nakedness. So they're sharing the same mother. You're sharing the same mother, right?
We're sharing the same father, and we're half.
We're sharing the same father. But if it was reversed, you're sharing
we would still be a half-sister.
Boy, that really does. This is tricky. This is really tricky. We're talking about near of kin. And I always thought near of kin had to do more with the father than anything else. But I'm seeing that it's different than that. It has to do with the mother as well. Let's continue on. And these are all really good thoughts. It says the nakedness of your son's daughter. Verse 10. The nakedness of your son's daughter, or the nakedness of your daughter's daughter. Daughter's daughter. Their nakedness you shall not uncover, for theirs is their own nakedness. So we're talking about a son's daughter, which would be a granddaughter, or a daughter's daughter, which would be also a granddaughter. The nakedness of your son's daughter, or your daughter's daughter. Son's daughter, or daughter's daughter. Okay, we're still talking about granddaughters. They're both granddaughters, aren't they? Let's go to 8. Let's go to 11. The nakedness of your father's woman's daughter. The nakedness of thy father's woman's daughter. Father's woman's daughter, begotten by thy father. She is your sister. You shall not uncover her nakedness. Thy father's woman's daughter, begotten by thy father, is your sister. Okay, she's your sister. You shall not uncover the nakedness, verse 12. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father's sister. Your father's sister. See, this is not related to, well, I guess it's the same gene pool because it's they have a common grandfather. The nakedness of your father's sister, she is near of kin to your father. This is what happened. Your father's sister is your aunt. Your father's sister is your aunt. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy mother's sister. This is verse 19. No, this is verse 20 of Leviticus 20:19. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy mother's sister, nor of thy father's sister, for that would uncover his near of kin. They shall bear their guilt. You know, this is exactly what Amram did. Remember, Amram was Moses' father when he took Jochebed, his father's sister. And Amram took for himself Jochebed, his father's sister, as his woman, as his wife, is what they would have had in there. And she bore him Aaron and Moses. They leave out Jochebed, or they leave out their sister. And the years of the life of Amram were 137. Now here, it says, you shall not uncover the nakedness of your mother's sister. Now, doesn't that surprise you? It surprises me. Your mother's sister is your aunt. You're not going to sleep with your aunt. Verse 20 of Leviticus 20:19. Thou shalt not uncover the nakedness of thy mother's sister, nor thy father's sister, for that would uncover his near of kin. Really, wouldn't it be their near of kin if you're talking about your mother's sister or your father's sister? Wouldn't be his near of kin. The mother's sister is not his near of kin. It would be their near of kin. They shall bear their guilt. Here's 14. And I'm going to review this when we get to the end here, because I still want to make sure that we got this correct. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father's brother. The nakedness of your father's brother is your uncle. You shall not approach his woman. She is your aunt. So we're talking about your uncle's woman. You're not going to come near her. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your daughter-in-law. She is your son's woman. You shall not uncover her nakedness. It says her nakedness. This surprises me that it would say her nakedness. I would expect it to be his nakedness because she is the son's woman. But it says her nakedness. And there it is. This is what says her right there. I would expect this to say his nakedness because she is his son's woman. I think this may be an error. If a man lies with his daughter-in-law, I want to show you just how these fit together. And we're going to get to here in a couple of weeks. If a man lies with his daughter-in-law, both of them shall be put to death. They have committed perversions. Their blood shall be upon them. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your brother's woman. It is, see, there it is. It is your brother's nakedness. How come it's not your son's nakedness? What's the difference? If they're going to be consistent, it would say her nakedness, wouldn't it? But it doesn't say that. If a man takes his brother's woman, it is an unclean thing. He has uncovered his brother's nakedness. They, the brother and his woman, shall be childless. Uncovering thy brother's woman. Isn't it interesting that there's not a death penalty for that? Where in the last one there was a death penalty? Here it says they're just going to be childless. Keep in mind that if a man takes a woman, this is the Levirate law, if a man takes a woman and she dies before they have a child, a male child, according to the Levirate law, this is what was going on with Judah, with the three sons that he had in, I don't know, maybe it was 20, I don't remember where I was at right offhand. She was given to the next brother. And remember, he died. He put his seed on the ground instead of getting her pregnant like he was supposed to. And Jehovah killed him. And then the last son, Judah didn't give to her. Terah? Is that her name, Terah? I want to say Terah. Maybe that's wrong. I don't remember right offhand. But that's the Levirate law. So in that case, that would be acceptable before Jehovah. Well, here's another one. Verse 17. You shall not uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter. Now, this is interesting because now this becomes a prohibition for polygamy, or polygyny is really what we're talking about. Multiple women in your family. Multiple wives, we would call it these days. Not polygamy. Remember, that has to do with the law and what a spouse is. And, it's all very convoluted to keep men from having multiple women in their lives. But if you're going to have multiple women in their lives, it can't be a woman and her daughter. It can't be a woman and her son's daughter. Or a woman and her daughter's daughter. Let's read it. You shall not uncover the nakedness of a woman and her daughter, nor shall you take her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter. So we're talking about a woman and her son's daughter, or a woman and her daughter's daughter, two women, to uncover her nakedness. They are near of kin to her, not him, her. It is wickedness. Here's what it says in Leviticus 20. If a man takes a woman and her mother, it is wickedness. They shall be burned with fire, both he and they, the two women. that there may be no wickedness among you. We just read 17. Oh, that is 17. Okay. 18. You shall not take a woman as a rival to her sister to uncover her nakedness while the other is alive. So you can't have a woman and her sister. Now, isn't this exactly what happened with Rachel and Leah? And you saw the infighting that went on with those two girls. Here, I've got it here. You shall not. This is this verse, I guess. I just rewrote it. But this is what Jacob did with Leah and Rachel. Yeah, they took her sister, a woman and her sister. But it now is look what it says. To uncover her nakedness while the other is alive. You can take a woman and her sister after the first woman dies. You can take the sister, but you can't do it while she's still alive. Now, here's the switching gears again. Remember, all this had to do, all these from way up here, 7 all the way down to 18 was all about the man's nakedness or the woman's nakedness. Now we're switching gears, and look what it says. Also, you shall not approach a woman to uncover her nakedness as long as she is in her customary impurity. Now, this is temporary, a temporary thing. If you have a woman, she's in her menses, then that's the nida, menstrual impurity, nida. We don't have sex with the woman. Here in 20, it says, if a man lies with a woman during her nida and uncovers her nakedness, he has exposed her flow, and she has uncovered the flow of her blood. Both of them shall be cut off get kicked out of Israel for doing this. I wish I had the one from 15. Oh, here it is right here. And if a man lies with her at all, so that her impurity is on him, he shall be unclean 7 days. So this is when it happens by accident. They're having sex. She turns out to be in her menses. Now he's going to be unclean for 7 days. She's going to be unclean. But they didn't know it. It's kind of like knowingly. If it's done knowingly, it gets you kicked out of Israel. If it's done by accident, you're just unclean for 7 days. That was 19. 20. Moreover, you shall not lie carnally with your neighbor's wife to defile yourself with her. Well, this is adultery, plain and simple. Lying carnally with your neighbor's woman to defile yourself. It's the 7th commandment. And again, in Leviticus 20, it says this. The man who commits adultery, there it is, with another man's woman, he has committed adultery with his neighbor's woman. The adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. Verse 21. And thou shalt not let any of thy descendants pass through the fire of Moloch, nor shalt thou profane the name of thy Elohim. I am Yahovah. Ani Yahovah. Up until recently, I would have thought this doesn't happen anymore. Now I see this happens all the time in the world. We are just completely unaware of what's going on and the wickedness that has been hidden from us in the world. Wait until you guys see what's happening. Descendants. This word descendants is this word here. Zerah. Thy Zerah. thy seed, those that come from a man's sperm. He's talking to the men. Remember, all these are talking to men. This is you, thou. The thou is always the men. The thou in the Ten Commandments is always the men that he was speaking to. What do we have here? This is Zerah. Oh, Moloch. This was all about Moloch, the king. King, thy seed, giving thy seed to Moloch. Could it be Melech also? Is that the only way that it can be seen? Let's do this, seed to Melech. This is 430. Let's see what it is actually. Give thy seed to, of course, this is just what Strong's gave this number to this. Oftentimes it's wrong. Here's Melech, chief deity of the Amorites. But the same spelling, Melech. Here's Melech, same spelling, different number. This is the chief deities of the Amorites, but this is the reign of the king, action reign, abstract king, or kingdom, Melech. I wondered about a marriage license. Talk about giving your seed away. Remember, when you get a marriage license, you're marrying your woman and the state. And the state really is the head of that three-way union. That's why the state can take your children. I wondered about a birth certificate and giving your children away through the birth certificate, putting them into bondage. You would understand this much more deeply than most of the people on here right now, as far as the straw man and all the things that a birth certificate and a marriage license actually do to tear apart families. But in a sense, I wonder if you're giving your children away just by even virtue of getting a birth certificate, by virtue of the marriage license. Could that be giving people away? I wonder. Obviously, giving him to Moloch, Ammon, is wickedness, because they're going to be destroyed. And that is going on. That is going on in the world right now. We just don't know it. But we're going to see it. Let's continue. It says, you shall not lie with a male as with a woman. It is an abomination. Thou, Israel's seed, shall not lie with a male as one lies with a woman. Talking about homosexuality, aren't we? Talking about mishkavi isha. Mishkavi isha. As you lie with a woman by the introduction of the male member. Two biblical narratives highlight this theme. One about the men of Sodom in Genesis 19, and the other concerning the fate of the concubine at Gibeah in Judges 19. Remember, the man came into town and all the men of Gibeah were having sex with each other. They wanted to have sex with the man who came into town, but he ended up giving him his woman. They raped her all night long. All Gibeah was an Israel. Although Israel was an Israelite town, the story clearly implies that the Gibeon Israelite residents had descended to the abominable ways of the surrounding people. They were having sex, males with males. And we talked about male prostitutes being the price of a dog and all that. We don't need to go into all that. Here's what it says in 20 about this subject. If a man lies with a male as he lies with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood shall be upon them. Boy, how far we have fallen that now this is common. This is common things. I mean, it's what the nations do. We're going to see it here in just a second. Look what the next thing says. You shall not mate with an animal. Thou shalt not, nor shalt thou mate with an animal to defile yourself with it. Nor shall any woman stand before an animal to mate with it. It is a perversion. Perversion, here's the word that they use for perversion, I think. Mixture, unnatural, bestiality. If a man mates with an animal, he shall surely be put to death. Not kicked out of Israel, put to death. And you shall kill the animal. If a woman approaches any animal to mate with it, you shall kill the woman and the animal. They shall surely be put to death. Their blood is upon them. Well, we're talking about men taking another man as he takes a woman. And the very next verse was this bestiality thing. Man with a beast. A woman standing before a beast. Notice, let me just read this to you. Here's what I wrote. You will not find what the Western culture calls lesbianism in Torah. In fact, I think you would be hard-pressed to find it even in the New Testament. The sin of this lifestyle is not sexual relations between two women. It is the rejection of a male covering. In other words, the sin of two women being together is not that they're together. They got no seed. The sin is that they do not have a covering. And every woman in Jehovah's kingdom is supposed to have a covering. I put it as the rejection of the male covering, a male authority in their life. It is noticeably missing in this chapter. Yeah, this chapter doesn't talk about lesbianism at all. Now, look at even in the New Testament. You think it's in the New Testament, but I argue that it's not in the New Testament. Look what it actually says. This is Romans. For this cause, Elohim gave them up to vile affections. For even their women did change the natural use into which is against the nature, which is against nature. They were lying with animals. Jehovah hates mixed kinds. Okay, those are my words. And likewise, also the men, leaving the natural use of a woman, burned in their lust one towards another, men with men, working with which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves the recompense of the error which was due. See, you always have to look at what it doesn't say. I would argue, talking about sexual abominations, what do we call this? We started this, we're on 19 right now. We called this section sexual prohibitions. Do you notice that there are no prohibitions between what a man and his woman can do together? Oh, isn't that interesting? We have many ideas about what should be and what shouldn't be done between a man and his woman. But Yehovah is very silent on this matter. I wonder why. Could it be that there is nothing unclean between what a man and his wife can do together? A man and his woman can do together? Ooh, there's something to think about. Where were we? Here we were on 18, 23, 24. New topic. Do not defile yourselves. This is yourselves. This is y'all selves with any of these things. For by all these, what are we talking about? All the things that we've just been talking about. Lying with near of kin, lying with animals, men with men, multiple related women who are near of kin. For by all these, the nations, the goyim, hagoyim, are defiled, which I am casting out before you. Oh, here. Let me take to mention yet another thing that Yehovah never talks about. There is nothing that a man and his woman can do together that is unclean or unacceptable before Yehovah, except taking a woman during her time of nadah, during her time of separation. That's it. That's the only thing Yehovah talks about. Now, look what it says. This is the next 4 verses, 25 through 28. For the land is defiled, therefore I visit the punishment of its iniquity upon it. And the land vomits out its inhabitants. Listen to that. The land vomits out its inhabitants. We're going to see it called the land's men here in just a second. The land's men. It's not the men's land. It's the land's men. The wicked are removed from the earth, but the righteous remain on it. Look what it says. This is Proverbs. For the upright shall dwell in the land, and the blameless will remain in it. But the wicked will be cut off from the earth, and the unfaithful will be uprooted from it. Here's Proverbs 10. The righteous will never be removed, but the wicked will not inhabit the earth. You know, this is totally against what most people, a vast majority of people, think about the rapture. That somehow the good people are going to be taken from the earth and the wicked are going to be left behind. Ridiculous. It's the complete opposite of what Yehovah says. The righteous are going to remain in the earth because the earth isn't going to vomit out the men. Let me continue reading. He says, y'all, verse 26, shall keep my statutes and my judgments. This is how we started, isn't it? And shall not commit any of these abominations, the ones that we've been talking about for the last hour. Either any Ezra, look what it says, any of your own nation, or any stranger. No, here's what it actually says. Either the Ezra and the Ger who dwell among y'all. the Ezra, and the Ger. That's Israel's seed and the Ger. Israel and the Ger. Look what it says now. For all these abominations, the land's men, this doesn't say the men of the land, this says the land's men, the land's Ish. That's why I say, we don't own the land. The land, in a sense, owns us. The land's Ish have done who were before you all. And thus the land is defiled. This is a plural you. Thus the land vomit you out. There's the land again, vomiting us out, the wicked out. Vomiting you out. Also, when you defile it, as it vomited out the nations that were before you. The land vomits us out. When we defile, are we defiling the land? Is that what they said? The land is defiled. By all these things, the nations are defiled, which I'm casting out before you, for the land is defiled. Therefore, I visit the punishment of its iniquity upon it, and the land vomits out its inhabitants. Wow. For whoever commits any of these abominations, tu'ava is actually what it is. The abominations, these abominations, the persons, the nefeshot, plural persons, who commits them shall be cut off from among their people. Again, any of these abominations, these are the sins, the abominations that are the prohibitions that are enumerated in the first part of this chapter. Therefore, you shall keep my statutes, keep my ordinances, Therefore, you shall keep my ordinances, so that you do not commit any of these abominable customs, which were committed before you. And you, again, you all, that you do not defile yourselves by them. I am Yehovah, Ani Yehovah Elohim, your Y'all's Elohim. Oh my goodness. There's just so much here. And I know it does get a little bit confusing when we're talking about what I was calling a stepsister versus a half-sister. I may have had that wrong. But you can see that it's more than just the father's nakedness. There is a nakedness of the mother as well, which I was very surprised to see. Well, I guess it's the closeness. Remember, it's about near of kin. It's about near of kin. Your mother's near of kin, your father's near of kin. You're near of kin. I guess, and your wife's near of kin if you want to take it a step further. Anyway, we're going to stop here today. Next week, we are going to go through, you know what? Yehovah repeats himself often when something is important to him. These are miscellaneous instructions that we're going to see next week. There's a bunch of different things that Yehovah is going to, dare I say, repeat himself on. And I think when Yehovah repeats himself like this, we need to take it to heart. All right, folks. Well, we'll see you next time. Thank you for joining me. Bye now.